Tuma Kamijo is a high school student living in Academy City, Japan, which is a scientifically advanced city managed by a supercomputer called the Tree Diagram. In this city, 80% of the population are students known as Aspers, who possess psychic abilities ranked from level 1 to 5. However, Tuma is just an ordinary guy with no powers, stuck at level 0, and often finds himself surrounded by misfortune. One day, while at a regular restaurant with his friend Evie, he witnesses a guy harassing a girl who is sitting alone. Trying to intervene and play the hero, he unknowingly annoys the guy and his delinquent friends. They start chasing him around town, but to his surprise, they suddenly stop pursuing him. Tuma takes a moment to catch his breath at a bridge, only for the girl, whose name is Masaka, to catch up with him. She reveals that she used her Asper ability to disable the delinquents, showcasing that she is a powerful level 5 Asper, one of the few in the city. Realizing he made a mistake by getting involved, Tuma explains to Masaka that he is a level 0 Asper like the delinquents, and it would be unnecessary for her to demonstrate her powers, as it might inadvertently harm him. Masaka demonstrates her electric ability by using a coin to unleash a powerful railgun blast, but to her astonishment, Tuma manages to block the attack. This angers Masaka, causing her to release a massive electricity blast on the environment. The following day, Tuma wakes up to extreme heat as the previous night's attack fried his appliances, leaving him without air conditioning. His day continues to go poorly as he finds spoiled perishables in his fridge and accidentally breaks his debit card. Additionally, his teacher calls to remind him about summer lessons. Later, when he goes to the balcony to air out his futon, he discovers a strange foreign-looking girl dressed like a nun hanging there. The girl wakes up and asks for food, leaving Tuma shocked and puzzled by her presence. Despite initially giving her spoiled food to silence her, he feels guilty and takes the plate back, eating a portion of the food to save face. The girl introduces herself as Index and explains that she was being pursued on the rooftop due to her possession of 103,000 grimoires with powerful magical abilities. She suggests he can call her Dedicata's 545, her magical name. Tuma notices that there are no visible books around Index, who then explains that they are invisible. She assures him that his inability to see them doesn't mean he's unintelligent. She shares that she is being pursued by an elite magical society she was once a part of. Tuma finds it hard to believe, as they live in a society of Aspers created by science, where magic is considered a mere fairy tale. However, Index insists that magic is real. Intrigued, Tuma asks for proof of her magic. Index explains that she doesn't have enough mana to cast a spell. Despite this, Tuma remains skeptical and mentions his own strange ability. His right hand can repel any attack regardless of its strength. Both of them seem to possess abilities they cannot demonstrate. Amid a heated argument, Index claims her robe is magically enchanted and asks Tuma to stab her with a cooking knife to prove her magic. Alternatively, she tells him to use his dispelling ability on her robe. Tuma gives it a try, and to their surprise, his nullification ability works, completely nullifying the magical enchantment. Index gets angry, but Tuma realizes that her supposed magic ability might be related to Asper since his nullification power works on it too. Tuma offers to let Index stay at his place while he goes to school, but she declines, fearing the evil organization might find her and destroy the building in the process. As Tuma heads outside, he accidentally crushes his phone, and Index comments that his right hand seems to erase God's blessings and good luck, explaining his perpetual misfortune. Despite Index insulting him since her arrival, Tuma doesn't want her wandering around town with nowhere to sleep. Outside, Index struggles with automated vacuum cleaners, mistaking them for enemy robots. At school, the teacher, with pink hair, playfully teases Tuma, who spaces out during the lessons, wondering if Index managed to escape to the church safely. In the evening, Tuma encounters Masaka, whom he nicknames Shocker, irritating her. However, instead of attacking him, she accidentally fries the phones of people passing by. They continue bickering, and the electric interference causes the automated robots to become aggressive, attempting to apprehend them for disrupting the neighborhood's peace. Returning to his apartment, Tuma finds Index lying on the floor with grave injuries. A red-haired magician named Steel Magnus reveals himself as the one chasing after Index. Steel refers to Index as a tool but admits he wasn't the one who injured her, as they need her alive. He warns Tuma about the power of the grimoires inside Index's brain and their dangerous effect on ordinary people like him. Tuma remains skeptical and decides to confront the person claiming to possess magic abilities. He throws a weak punch at the person, who immediately conjures a powerful flame from their cigarette, gathering it in their palm for an intense attack. They blast the flame at Tuma, expecting him to be unable to survive it. However, to their surprise, Tuma emerges unharmed, glad that his power of nullification works on magical attacks as well. Steel fires another blast, closely observing how Tuma manages to extinguish the flames effortlessly. Frustrated, Steel summons a powerful flame demon called Innocentius, whose intense heat starts melting the surroundings. Tuma attempts to nullify the attack, but this time, it's different. The attack remains unaffected and possesses both a weapon and intelligence. Tuma blocks it with his right hand, only to discover that although his hand of misfortune works, the flame regenerates instantly after being cancelled out. At that moment, Index suddenly opens her eyes and explains that Innocentius cannot be extinguished unless the rune markings placed near their location are destroyed. Her way of speaking raises doubts in Tuma's mind, prompting her to reintroduce herself as the Grimoire Library of the Zeroth Church of England, responsible for safeguarding the grimoires. Tuma barely escapes Steele's next attack, which blasts him down to a floor below. He notices numerous runes placed everywhere, realizing that he won't be able to defeat Innocentius without dealing with the runes. Innocentius continues to chase him, but as Tuma falls onto the parking lot, the runes restrict the spell's movement, preventing it from pursuing him further. He tries to call the cops, only to realize that he didn't have time to fix his broken phone earlier in the day. Although a part of him wants to run away, he can't ignore the thought of losing Index. Suddenly, the sprinklers activate, and Tuma comes out of the elevator, thanking Steele for using papers to set up the runes. Steele's spell accidentally activated the sprinkler system by burning through the building, revealing that Innocentius is still active due to the durability of the papers used for the runes. When Innocentius attacks again, Tuma cancels the flames entirely, explaining that even though the paper didn't fall off, the inks have been washed away by the water, leaving no source of flame. Steele becomes powerless, unable to fight back or block. Using this chance, Tuma punches him, and after a while, the police arrive, accompanied by a crowd of spectators, including Misaka and her sister Kuroko, a member of Judgment, an organization similar to the Student Council of Academy City. At the back of the building, Tuma asks Index if she has a spell to heal herself since they can't simply go to the hospital without an ID. Index explains that Tuma, being an Esper, can't use the spell because magic is meant for ordinary people without extraordinary abilities. As a last resort, they go to Tuma's teacher's house, who may appear innocent and meek but is actually a chain smoker and drunk with no self-awareness. With a 15-minute countdown to the end of Index's life, Tuma asks the teacher to follow Index's instructions. He leaves the room as his abilities could nullify recovery magic. Inside, teacher asks Index the exact date and time, and she tells her without looking at any clock or calendar. Index explains that she has an internal clock that is very accurate. Index stands and draws a magic circle on the table using her blood as a medium, which frightens the teacher. Items are placed on the table, and Index explains that teacher must accurately follow her instructions, or the spell may result in her death. They both chant a spell, making the rune tremble, and then it successfully links to the table. Index concentrates on conjuring the image of an angel from her mind to enable their spell. An angel appears but disappears shortly after because the teacher was distracted by its physical form. They try again, this time deeply concentrating on summoning the angel, and it eventually appears, healing Index's wounds and replenishing her mana. After the spell, Index's automated response shuts down and she returns to her usual self. The next day, Tuma arrives at the apartment to find Index and the teacher getting along fine. When Tuma's friend asks about their relationship, he tells her they are siblings, an obvious lie given their different hair and eye colors. She considers reporting the incident to the authorities, but Tuma asks her not to interfere, not wanting to involve her in their fight with dangerous magicians. She decides to put the conversation on hold and goes shopping for breakfast, leaving Index and Tuma alone. Index reveals that they shouldn't involve the teacher further because grimoires are dangerous, and she struggled with the previous recovery spell. She explains that she belongs to the English Purist Church and was in a special division that researched magic to carry out witch hunts and inquisitions. The division gathered several original magical grimoires that can't be destroyed and sealed them in her head, hoping to one day use their powers to eradicate magic from the world entirely. In the evening, Tuma asks Index about her time in England, but she reveals that her memories keep disappearing, leaving only important information like her name intact. As they walk, Tuma suddenly finds himself isolated from Index and everyone else around them, including vehicles and trains. A mage named Kinzaki Kelray appears and explains that the isolation is due to Index's rune. Kinzaki gets straight to the point, demanding that Tuma hand over Index without a fight to save himself. When Tuma refuses, she displays her powerful abilities, attempting to frighten him into submission. However, Tuma stands his ground, confident in his right hand's power. Kinzaki demonstrates a frightening technique that can kill a person instantly, but Tuma remains unwavering. During the confrontation, Tuma notices tiny wires attached to Kinzaki's katana, which she has been using for her attacks. It turns out she hasn't even used her magic powers, believing they are unnecessary. Despite the one-sided battle, Tuma continues to resist her demands. He tries to reach the human part of her soul, making her feel guilty for chasing after a harmless girl like Index for months. Kinzaki explains that she is actually a friend of Index and that the misunderstanding arose due to her ability called perfect memorization. Her brain is filled with memorized details, leaving only 15% of her brain to store regular information, which must be constantly erased each year to avoid death. She reveals that the purest church they belong to demanded that she secure Index, leading to their desperate measures. Tuma's refusal infuriates Kanzaki, and she accuses him of being a bad friend to Index. She emphasizes how much they care for Index's well-being and how difficult it was for them to hunt their friend. Exhausted and overpowered, Tuma falls unconscious during the altercation. Upon waking up, he finds Index beside him, having treated his wounds. He realizes that 3 days have passed since he fell unconscious. Index still has her memories intact, surprising Tuma. As he wonders why the magicians left him on the road after defeating him, he decides not to dwell on it. While goofing around with Index, Kamo arrives at the apartment with Steel and Cory following behind. Index pleads with them not to harm Tuma, promising to do whatever they want. They reveal that they have 12 hours left until the time limit for a ritual is reached, and they plan to observe until then. Later in the evening, Tuma receives a call from Kanzaki, who informs him that they intend to carry out the ritual by midnight. She advises him to use the remaining time for a bitter farewell before they arrive. Tuma suggests they find a loophole in the situation by using a spell from Index's grimoires. However, Index explains that the church has taken measures to prevent such actions, and even the magicians of the division cannot interfere with her condition. He then proposes looking for an esper who can control others' memories and use it to erase the grimoires from her brain. Cory considers it risky and declines to support the plan, urging Tuma to handle it himself while they prepare for the ritual. Tuma continues trying to reach a neurosurgeon to perform surgery on Index, but time is running out, and he can't properly explain the situation to any doctor. Style and Carrie arrive, finding Index in pain and fighting for her life. Tuma persists in trying to convince them to seek medical help, but Steel becomes angry, believing that relying on a stranger might put Index at risk. Steel shows Tuma a magical artifact they plan to use to erase Index's memories and challenges him to dispel the enchantment if he truly believes he can save her and keep her safe. Frustrated and feeling defeated, Tuma gives up on saving Index through risky means, and they prepare for the ritual. As they leave the room, Tuma gets 10 minutes to bid farewell to Index before the ritual begins. During this time, he promises to become stronger to protect her in the future. However, he starts to sense that something is amiss. He contacts Kamo and learns more about perfect memorization, realizing that the church lied to Carrie and Steel. The need to erase Index's memory annually might be a result of a spell rather than her brain's capacity. Upon further investigation, Tuma discovers a mark at the top of Index's mouth, and when he touches it, she becomes incredibly aggressive, switching to her automated mode. As Tuma is seen as an intruder to be immediately dealt with, Index starts casting a spell called Street George's Sanctuary. This spell creates a barrier between her and Tuma, preventing him from breaking the remaining seals within her body. She then unleashes a powerful ray of pure magic at Tuma, stunning the other magicians who had believed the church's deception that she couldn't use magic. Tuma reveals that the church had lied about her magical abilities and the supposed limitations of her brain storage capacity, humorously referring to it as Windows XP storage capacity. As the intensity of the magic becomes overwhelming, Tuma struggles to handle it. Steel steps in to assist by placing his runes around the room to aid Tuma in countering the magic. Tuma urges them to strengthen their resolve if they genuinely want to save Index, emphasizing that they must be willing to give their all, even if it means risking their lives. As a demonstration of her power, Kanzaki uses a spell to alter Index's footing, redirecting the trajectory of the powerful attack skyward, which ends up destroying a satellite in space. This attack is known as Dragon's Breath, a spell designed to erase a person's existence with a single touch. Despite the intense situation, Index manages to regain her footing and launches the attack at Tuma again. However, Steel's Innocentius spell shields him, allowing him to close the distance between himself and Index. While running towards her, Index upgrades the spell to a higher level, easily defeating Steel's Innocentius. Tuma successfully makes contact with the second seal, which also dispels the barrier around Index. As a result, her automation shuts off, and she collapses, followed by Tuma, who had reached his limit long ago. The next day at the hospital, Index reads a letter from Steel addressed to Tuma, explaining that both the church and themselves have decided to observe her from a distance for the time being, with the intention of retrieving her later. In Tuma's room, Index discovers that his memory was affected by the Dragon's Breath spell. He doesn't remember her, his whereabouts, or even his own name. Feeling guilty, she starts crying, but Tuma reveals he was just teasing her and that he regained his memories using the power of his right hand, Imagine Breaker. The doctor, named Imagine Breaker, confirms Tuma's recovery, leaving Index relieved yet annoyed by Tuma's jokes. Over the next 2 weeks, Tuma and Index continue living together, even though he still lacks memories of their past. He conceals his memory loss from Index and pretends to play along with classmates he encounters. This act causes Index to become angry and forces him to treat everyone to lunch at a restaurant. While there, they encounter a distressed lady who claims to have spent all her money and needs assistance. However, upon closer inspection, it turns out she doesn't have enough money to board a train back home. Tuma suggests to the distressed lady that she could borrow money from someone else. However, she turns her attention to him and asks if he could lend her 100 yen to cover her train ticket. He declines the request, but she persists and tries to convince him by saying he could consider it as payment for getting to see her beautiful face. The lady then reveals that she is a magician, piquing Index's curiosity about her affiliation and origin, as well as her shrine maiden-like attire. However, the lady does not provide any reasonable response and agrees with everything Index says, appearing emotionless. Afterward, some men in suits, whom the lady refers to as her cram school teachers, give her some money and escort her out of the restaurant. On their way home, Index discovers an abandoned cat and expresses her desire to keep it. But Tuma firmly refuses to allow the cat inside because pets are not permitted in the school dormitories. Despite Index's protests, the cat gets scared and runs away due to the commotion. Determined to find the cat, Index leaves Tuma behind for his safety and follows a strange flow of mana caused by a nearby rune. Unknowingly, this was a setup by Kari, allowing Style to have a private moment with Tuma. Though Tuma doesn't recognize Style, he instinctively uses his right hand to defend himself when attacked with magic. Style explains that a girl named Himagami-Issa is imprisoned in Misawa Cram School, which was previously a religious cult and is now controlled by an alchemist from the Zurich school named Oriel Izzard. Oriel is after the Deep Blood, a powerful ability capable of killing vampires, which the girl possesses. Though Tuma initially doubts the validity of the vampire-related information, Style insists that rescuing the girl should be their priority. Back at home, Index secretly brings in the stray cat, Sphinx, and convinces Tuma to let her keep it by using her position as his sister. Tuma leaves with Style to the location of the cram school to investigate further. They arrive at the school and are shown a picture of the imprisoned girl, Himagami-Issa, who Tuma recognizes as the girl he met at the cafe earlier. Inside the school, they encounter a strange environment where regular students go about their activities, unaware of them due to a seal dividing the building into an outer natural side and an inner magical side. As they ascend the stairs, they reach a cafe filled with students, who react coldly to their presence. Chanting begins, and Steele advises Tuma to retreat before ordering their attackers to stop. Tuma manages to defend himself from the attack using his right hand since he can't counter all the spells simultaneously. He escapes the scene and catches up with Style, who explains that the spell they encountered was a replica used by a group of monks. They soon find themselves trapped in the stairway by the remote spell. Style decides to use Tuma as bait while he escapes down the hallway. Tuma encounters the girl leading the chant for the joint spell, and as he approaches her, he witnesses her getting severely wounded due to the spell's backlash. He catches her before she falls, causing the spell to hit him instead. However, before further harm can be done, the spell suddenly stops and vanishes with the arrival of Aza, who informs Tuma that she knows a lot about blood flow in the body and can treat the injured girl with his help. Within a few minutes, Aza stitches up the girl's wounds, prompting Tuma to wonder if she is a secret doctor without a license. She reveals that she is a magician and presents something resembling a wand from her garment, but Tuma points out that it looks more like a police club and suggests they leave the place together. Aza clarifies that there's a misunderstanding, explaining that she is not being held against her will. She reveals that her blood attracts vampires, and she used to gather and kill them. However, she no longer wishes to take lives, and she believes Oriel Izzard, the alchemist, is not the evil person Tuma thinks he is. Izzard's intention is to capture vampires to study their powers and use that knowledge to save someone. Just then, Oriel appears and starts toying with Tuma by distorting the space around them. He moves to finish Tuma off, but Izza intervenes, threatening to stop cooperating with him if he continues to kill innocent civilians. As a demonstration of his power, Oriel stabs himself in the neck and uses his ability of utterance to make two men forget everything they saw in the building. Tuma opens his eyes, finding himself in a panic with Style, but with no recollection of what happened inside the building. Deep down, they sense that something important might be missing from their memories. Tuma touches his head with his right arm, and his memories flood back. He scolds Style for using him as bait when they were trapped by the spell in the stairway, and in response, he playfully punches him hard. They hurry back to the building, where the remaining knights are chanting a spell that summons a powerful attack, resulting in the building's destruction. However, thanks to Oriel's power, the building starts repairing itself. They discover Sphinx wrapped in Index's scarf, realizing that Index has been captured by the mischievous alchemist. In their search for Index, they eventually find Oriel, Izza, and Index on the top floor of the building. Oriel reveals that his intention is to save Index from the burden of the grimoires and the curse of losing her memories each year. He went on a journey to find a way to save Index and came to the conclusion that seeking the help of the vampires, who have lived long with accumulated memories, might be the answer. Style questions what he would do if the method of memory retention doesn't work on Index, to which he responds that he would turn Index into a vampire. They inform Oriel that Tuma has already saved Index from her fate and that Tuma has the ability called Imagine Breaker. Oriel is astounded that Tuma, who is neither a magician nor an esper, accomplished what he couldn't. They explain that Tuma has been hiding away for the past 3 years, which is why he is unaware of this development. Just then, Index begins mumbling in her sleep, expressing hunger and calling out Tuma's name. Oriel becomes annoyed with the situation, and his frustration amuses Tuma and Style. However, when Oriel tries to kill Tuma, Aza intervenes, attempting to reason with him, as she did on the stairs. This time, Oriel is past the point of needing her and orders her to die using his power of utterance. Aza falls unconscious as a result. Tuma utilizes his Imagine Breaker to nullify Oriel's magic just before Index's heart stops beating entirely. Oriel becomes infuriated and repeatedly tries to kill Tuma through suffocation or electric shock, but Tuma continually nullifies the spells at the right moment. After a while, Oriel discerns the secret behind Tuma's right arm and conjures a high-speed gun that fires bullets too fast for the human eye to follow. However, Tuma's right hand cannot reach what he cannot see, so Oriel creates rifles loaded with bullets that cause extreme pain without killing him. Amidst observing Tuma's unconventional use of his supposedly all-powerful alchemy, Style questions why Oriel needed it to lure the vampires when he could have simply made them exist by uttering a word. In response, Oriel attempts to silence Style but ends up hanging from the ceiling, stripped down to his bare muscles and blood vessels, as punishment for mocking him. Oriel then proceeds to chop off Tuma's right hand, but Tuma remains unfazed, approaching him while laughing like a maniac. Oriel repeats the process, attempting to chop off Tuma's head and other body parts, but each attack proves ineffective against Tuma, leaving Oriel feeling powerless and frightened. Tuma reveals that Imagine Breaker's power has now encompassed every part of his body, rendering Oriel's attacks useless. In truth, Tuma was merely toying with Oriel psychologically, and Oriel's fear of Imagine Breaker compelled him to use his powers on himself unknowingly, causing his own downfall. Later on, Tuma's arm is reattached at the hospital, leaving the doctor curious about how he ended up in such a situation, especially considering his recent brain cell incident. Stale visits Tuma, explaining that Oriel's lost his memories due to the trauma, and they altered his appearance, allowing him to leave as an ordinary human. Upon hearing this, Tuma feels he deserves more credit, but Style isn't one to readily offer praise. Soon after, Index and Issa enter the room, expressing their gratitude to Tuma for saving Issa's life. Tuma also learns that Index has taken Issa in without his consent. It's been 2 months since Tuma's fateful encounter with Index, and he is still attending makeup classes that were supposed to have ended the previous month. His absence was due to dealing with various issues like battling magicians and rescuing Issa from the alchemist. Tuma heads to a vending machine to get a drink, but his last 2,000 yen note gets stuck, frustrating him in the hot weather. He encounters Mikasa again, who becomes upset because he doesn't remember their previous meeting. Mikasa jogs his memory by electrocuting him, prompting him to recall a similar attack. After her demonstration, she uses her Esper powers to make the vending machine spit out all the money, but instead, many cans pop out. Curious about her behavior, Tuma asks why a wealthy girl like her acts like a delinquent. Mikasa explains that her behavior is normal for a girl and that guys often have one-sided assumptions about how girls should act. When she learns the machine ate his 2,000 yen note, she decides to help him retrieve it using her Esper powers, but the machine surprises them by dispensing many cans instead of his money. Tuma immediately runs away, leaving Mikasa as the only person in the vicinity when the irregularity alarm goes off. She also escapes and brings the drinks that were bought from the vending machine with Tuma's money. Handing him the cans, she only takes one for herself since he didn't like the flavor. During their conversation, she encourages him to stop acting weak because he is the only student in the entire city who has managed to fight her, one of the 7 level 5 Espers in the city, to a draw. Tuma finds it hard to believe he could defeat someone as powerful as her and thinks she might be confusing him with someone else. Hiroko stumbles upon their conversation and assumes that Mikasa snuck out of class to meet up with a man. She introduces herself to Tuma, hinting that he should approach her first if he wants a chance with her sister. This leads to Mikasa attacking Kuroko with her electricity, but Kuroko easily evades the attacks using her teleportation powers. Amidst their bickering, another girl who looks exactly like Mikasa shows up. Mikasa refers to her as her sister, but Tuma notices her speech pattern is peculiar. Mikasa takes her supposed sister home, leaving Tuma to carry the cans of drinks home alone. While he is on his way home, Tuma trips on a ball and falls, causing the cans to tumble. The other Mikasa suddenly appears and offers to help him carry the cans home. Tuma asks about the real Mikasa's whereabouts, but she claims to have come from a different direction and doesn't know what he's talking about. At the entrance of his apartment building, they encounter a girl named Mika, the stepsister of his next-door classmate, who attends a maid school. Tuma sympathizes with her because students in maid school don't have summer breaks, but she takes pride in her career path and her school's curriculum. Upon arriving at the entrance to his room, Tuma finds Index and Issa squatting down as though they are doing something mysterious. When he asks what they are doing, they inform him that the cat is infested with fleas and they are trying to get rid of them. Index shows him the herb she plans to use on the cat, while Issa reveals a magic spray she believes would kill the fleas. Tuma cautions against smoking the cat or spraying chemicals directly on it. The other Mikasa volunteers to help by using a mild electric shock to kill the fleas, but she explains that she can't use her powers inside his room and suggests buying suitable insecticide. After leaving the cans behind, she walks away, looking like someone who has accomplished her mission. The next day in class, Tuma isn't paying attention, and his classmates tease him for being a level 0 Esper. To encourage him, Kamo tells him not to give up, mentioning that Misaka, the third strongest Esper in Academy City, was once a level 1 before she climbed up the ranks. After school, Tuma encounters Misaka, who seems to be in a different state than her usual hot-headed demeanor. She opens up to him, expressing her dislike for the city's supercomputer, the tree diagram, as well as the surveillance blimp floating above the city. Realizing she's sharing too much, she hits him on the head and tells him to forget what she said before going on her way. Continuing his route home, Tuma encounters the other Misaka, who is staring at a box with a stray cat. He thanks her for her help the previous day, but she brushes off his gratitude. He notices she was trying to feed the cat before he arrived but stopped midway, and he asks why. She explains that she constantly emits a weak magnetic field that only animals can sense, so she's afraid of accidentally harming the cat. He helps her pick up the cat, and while they look for a shelter, he suggests she names the cat. She playfully names it Dog to annoy Tuma, who reluctantly accepts the strange name she picked. They arrive at a bookstore where Tuma needs to pick up a reference book for school. He tosses the cat at her, and she catches it, saying she won't let it harm her. While he is shopping inside, a mysterious guy whose presence unnerves her, codenamed Accelerator, appears behind her. He chases her down an alley, and she shoots him several times with a rifle, but the bullets have no effect on him. It turns out the guy can create a powerful force field that repels or destroys anything that comes into contact with him. Misaka tries to counterattack with her electricity, but the result is the same. The attack is reflected back at her. He reveals that his abilities can reverse the flow of any attack that follows the principle of a vector, making him her natural enemy. At the same time, Tuma finishes from the bookstore and discovers the cat alone at the entrance. They start searching for Misaka by going around the building and eventually find traces of blood in her shoes. Eventually, they come across Misaka's lifeless body lying in a corner. Just as Tuma leads the police to the spot where she was killed, they don't see any corpse, leaving him confused. Tuma frantically runs around each corner until he spots the weird Misaka holding a body bag over her shoulder. She reveals that Misaka actually died in the alley. When he asks who is in the body bag, she asks him to decode the password. His inability to decode it means that he is not part of the experiment, so she cannot tell him who is in the bag. Suddenly, more Misakas appear, all sharing the same memories, and they explain that they are clones made for military purposes. They apologize for making him worry and leave the cat in his care before departing. After their departure, Tuma goes to Misaka's dormitory to ask her about the cloning experiment. Hiroko picks up the call and mistakes him for someone else. When he finally talks to Misaka in her room, he discovers Kuroko has a Misaka complex and has managed to live with her despite being in a lower grade. During their conversation, Kuroko notices the dorm supervisor conducting a routine inspection and tries to teleport Tuma away, but her powers don't work on him. She hides him under the bed just before the supervisor enters the room. While under the bed, Tuma finds a big teddy bear containing a zipper with details about the cloning experiment Misaka is involved in. He learns that the clones were created for an experiment to battle level 5 Espers, with the hope of one of them breaking through to level 6, a feat never achieved before. Quickly, Tuma heads to a power generation station marked on the map and finds Misaka chilling under a nearby bridge. He reads out the contents of the documents he obtained from her dorm, revealing that the Esper called Accelerator would have to kill 20,000 of her clones to break through to level 6. Misaka initially thinks he's pretending to care, but she soon realizes that he genuinely wants to help her and the clones. Tuma, being a genuinely kind person, listens as Misaka explains that the marked areas on the map are research facilities she's been destroying to halt the progress of the inhuman experiment aimed at achieving a level 6 Esper. Despite her efforts, new facilities keep cropping up, and the experiment continues. Misaka shares her plan to defeat Accelerator intentionally, making the tree diagram overestimate her abilities and leading to the shutdown of the experiment. She's willing to sacrifice herself to save the remaining 10,000 clones. Tuma suggests they cooperate and defeat Accelerator together, but Misaka believes he's too strong for her to handle. Still, Tuma stands firm, blocking her way, and even when she threatens to attack him with her full power, he doesn't back down. Misaka confesses to killing over 10,000 people and considers herself a villain undeserving of anyone's defense. Tuma explains that he went easy on her, which is why he's still standing after taking numerous blasts from her. Despite this, she charges a powerful blast that nearly destroys the bridge in the process. This brings an end to our episode. If you enjoyed it, then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe our channel, Annie Explainer.